So I'm thrilled to be here with all of you today in this illustrious panel. It is quite the busy time, so I too want to thank our panel for being here today, especially Ms. Thompson, who's in operations at DHS in TSA, and we know how busy everyone is in the final days of the fiscal year. So as many of you know, DHS has really been at the forefront of a lot of what we're going to be talking about today in terms of procurement innovation to enhance mission capability. So I am thrilled that this panel is here with me today. They are thought leaders in the space of procurement innovation and enabling mission through procurement and how we are trying to get better and better at that every single day. But before we dive in, I would like to introduce you. I have a few people shadowing me today, and they are part of our Acquisition Professional Career Program. The Acquisition Professional Career Program, or APCP, is a 3-year developmental program at DHS for acquisition professionals. And the purpose of that program is to graduate seasoned acquisition professionals into our component program and procurement offices. So today we have Jacob Westerfield, and you can just either turn around or raise your hand. Jacob is our contract specialist in his first year with the program and is currently assigned to the contracting office at ICE, at Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Woohoo, we got ICE fans over here. We also have Will Greer, who is another first-year contract specialist on a rotation at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Office of Contracting. And then Christian Zaman, a second-year contract specialist who's supporting the Office of Contracting also at USCIS. And while I say they're first and second year, you should know that our APCPs often come with extensive prior careers and backgrounds, and some of these folks do have pretty extensive backgrounds and careers, so we get a wealth of knowledge and skill coming to our acquisition workforce at DHS. So welcome to all of you. And actually, the head of that program, I don't know where he is, Mr. Carlos Morgan, he's in the audience somewhere, there he is. He's our executive director that enables all of the acquisition workforce training, professional development, certification, all that good stuff. So welcome, Carlos, in the back. So feel free to engage with these folks at the breaks or whenever. So before we get to today's panel, I'd like to first introduce them to you. I mentioned Dina Thompson already. Dina is the head of contracting and the assistant administrator of contracting and procurement at TSA. Dina has quite the long background also from DOD and her time at TSA, also as the deputy HCA. So Dina, welcome that you're here. And again, thank you for giving up precious time with your team for awarding those last minute contract actions. We also have Ms. Jackie Rubino. Jackie is the Executive Director of our Strategic Programs Division in the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. Also very much involved with our strategic sourcing, and I heard there were some questions before that came up around that, so we'll get to that. And then we also have Polly Hall, who is the Senior Advisor to myself and to Chief Procurement Officer Paul Courtney. And Polly also used to lead the Procurement Innovation Lab, so she's going to have quite a lot to say about procurement innovation at DHS. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Garth White. He is our industry representative on our panel today. He currently serves as the Director of Intelligence and Homeland Security at Oracle. But he's no stranger to DHS because before joining industry, Garth served in many roles at the department, including the Deputy Chief Data Officer, Chief Information Security Officer at DHS headquarters, and the Chief Operating Officer at DHS's Science and Technology Directorate. So as you can see, we have quite the illustrious panel here, and it's great to have you all here today. Just for a little bit of, to make sure that we get this panel going nice and smoothly, feel free to ask questions during our conversation. We're happy to pivot a little bit and see if someone has a pressing or urgent thing that they want to talk to us about. So we'll do our best to get everyone, but we'll also try to leave a few minutes at the end if anyone has any questions. So let's dive in. You might know that one of our strategic priorities in the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer is to inspire innovation to enhance mission capability. And this focuses very much not only on a lot of what the Procurement Innovation Lab is doing to develop techniques for our extended procurement community and program offices to do things more innovatively in a more agile fashion to enable some of the emerging technologies that we've been delivering. But also it focuses on culture change. That has been a big part of this strategic priority. And I'm proud to say that we've been partnering with Arizona State University over the past several years to begin to measure what that culture change has actually begun to look like. And so I'm going to go over to Polly, who's been involved in quite a bit of this. Polly, can you share with our audience how we are leveraging the pill and insights gleaned from the competing values framework to innovate on our procurement processes?
Yeah, absolutely, Nina. Thank you. And first of all, our new pill director, who's been around for about 1.5 years now, almost 2 years, Katie Crompton, is with her team thinking about the new service delivery opportunities that the pill has as we move into 25 and forward. So she sends her regards, and I'm excited to share some of the work that the pill has done over the years to really drive an assessment of what the work of the pill and others across our procurement community, what inroads we're making into shaping that culture. When the pill was initially stood up, right, it was stood up to address a culture that was perceived to be, well, you know, rather structured and maybe overly focused on process, sometimes at the expense of timely meeting the mission demand. And so the focus of the pill over the last 10 years, right, has been on driving that cultural change through hands-on immersive learning, sharing, well, testing and sharing for across our procurement community. In 2018, as Nina said, we partnered with Arizona State University through one of our Science and Technology Directorate's academic centers of excellence and leveraged a model called the Competing Values Framework, which is an organizational culture assessment tool. Now, how many of you are in organizations that measure your organizational culture? Show of hands, right? So this is good. Like, I mean, maybe a third, right? Maybe a third are measuring. Which is really great. You know, the fact that we are too as a government agency, I think speaks highly about the priority our leadership has had on really understanding where we're headed and where we still need to go. So this cultural assessment survey, which we call our Procurement Culture Survey, measures 4 value priorities: innovation, human relations or teamwork, process and control, and mission outcomes. And the first year we did this survey, right, and this survey is implemented across all 15,000 members of our DHS acquisition community. We average about a 14% response rate with good dispersion across all of the different roles across our acquisition community, right? Contracting officer, program manager, policy, legal, cores, contracting officer representatives, et cetera. So good percentage on our returns, good dispersions means we have 7 years of valid and reliable data to look at to inform where we've been and where we're going. In the early years, 2018, 2019, process and control and mission outcomes were pretty highly valued across our procurement community. And human relations and teamwork and innovation were less valued across our procurement community. And so the goal that our Chief Procurement Officer set for the pill is how can we drive better valuation on innovation and human relations, right? Maybe bring down the value placed on process and control while really prioritizing mission outcomes as the value, right? So we had our goal line set. And so year over year since 2018, we've measured the assessment. And we have seen an increase, in fact, a steady and consistent, though slow, increase in the value of innovation and human relations. What we've noticed, though, is that in the past 2 years, that progress to goal line has slowed down quite a bit, right? That's compelling, right? It's telling us that we've maybe met some of the easier inroads, right, and our opportunities, but we are probably at the 10-yard line, right, and have some hard work to do to goal there ahead of us. And so this data, which is briefed to our chief acquisition executives, to our heads of contracting activity, to our acquisition innovation advocates, and to our workforce broadly, helps shape priorities at the contracting activity level with the leadership there on what they can do internally to their own local organization, as well as the priorities that the CPO, Paul Courtney, Nina, and the PIL team can set on what we can do more strategically department-wide. So that's a little bit about how we're measuring the progress we've made, and the fact that we assess, I think hopefully shares a strong message that we do care about the culture, and we're really excited that we have tangible data to help inform our decision-making.
Thank you. And I think I'll just add to that. One of the interesting things we've really been paying attention to more recently in the surveys is the responses by role. So we've been paying close attention to not just what is the procurement community saying, but what are the people we collaborate with, our customers, program managers, contracting officers, representatives, even others who, we put in sort of our legal support, our policy experts. And it's giving us really great insights on how the results of this survey are shaping kind of our path forward to continue to inspire the innovation. So that's a good segue into talking a little bit about collaboration, and I know the prior panel talked a lot about that, right? And so I think I'll go to the next piece, which is our next strategic priority, or one of them, is to energize partnerships through collaboration. So the reason I want to talk about this is more in the context of what we're talking about today, right? Ensuring that we are doing this in the context of rapidly changing technology and delivering that to our customers and the program offices who need it so desperately. We do have our own sort of way of doing things in procurement, but we have to pay attention to how to enable what our customers need. And we really do this by enabling the right partnerships, not just with our customers, but with all of you in industry, as we realize you are just as key in helping us enable those outcomes. So there's nobody better than to address this first, I think, than Jackie Rubino, because Jackie, in your role as leading our industry engagement program, talk to the community here about how DHS is working and partnering with those stakeholders to achieve those outcomes.
Thanks, Dina. It's interesting. What we've found over the years, and we've heard from largely many of you, our industry partners, is that program officials won't talk to you. So if you're offering us emerging tech and capabilities that are evolving at a rapid pace, and programs won't talk to you, well, that's a big problem, because we're likely to write a requirement or slap a new date on an obsolete requirement and think that we're going to have a better outcome in the next cycle of a procurement. So some of the work that we're focused on in my team is collaborating with our CIO partners and others, right? It doesn't have to just be a CIO entity. Emerging tech is bought by anyone and everyone. It's largely coming apparent in a lot of our services, contracts to supplement the work that's being done from support service providers. Well, we're trying to shift the narrative and get folks to understand the rules of engagement. How could they and should they engage with industry up front, ask meaningful questions, not just sit there, in listening mode when you come in and deliver your capability statement, but truly equip them with questions to engage and understand where is innovation taking us, where is the particular marketplace going, even if it appears to be a stagnant, capability. Asking those questions, we find out so much more, and so our team has been very focused on not only connecting the dots and saying, hey, there's industry providers out there, but really pushing the behavior and shifting the culture and trying to drive change so that our program managers understand that they should and could absolutely connect with you well in advance of the requirements development process, so that they're mindful about what is out there in the space so that we can obtain the right solutions at the right time to deliver to the Homeland Security mission. Likewise, understanding that we've got to be mindful to write requirements that can shift and evolve. Being too definitive in some instances is going to get us an obsolete requirement potentially on day one, and an unintended consequence of us needing to start over. And so being mindful of how do we help our programs write requirements in such a way that they can really obtain those objectives that they have, deliver on mission, and ensure that contracts evolve with the capability to deliver.
Thanks, Jackie. Ashley.
Question already. Uh-oh.
I wonder, Jackie, if you wouldn't mind discussing the industry engagement training that you've sponsored and the breadth of the program communities that you've engaged, and as well how really your Homeland Security Acquisition Manual in Part 10 encourages program managers to lead market research in coordination with their contracting officers, small business specialists, and others. That's kind of a leading question, but there you go.
Absolutely. The efforts, thank you, Ashley, the efforts that I alluded to, we realized that we've got to formalize this in a training that's interactive. We have industry partners come in, but we have developed a series of, I call them 2-pagers. They're quick reference guides that equip our programs managers with, here's what you're trained on, but this is the takeaway and how you go implement, right? Here's some great ways to have dialogue with industry and the questions to ask and what the outcomes are that you might get achieved by asking these specific questions. And so last year we launched this effort, and it's been well received across the department. And more times than not, we receive in the chat from program officials across the agency, wow, I learned so many new things that I can apply to my work that I didn't know I could do before, or I wasn't aware that I can engage and talk to industry without a CO present. And so it's part of shifting the culture. We've put all these guides and the information out on our dhs.gov website. And one of the things I like to challenge our industry partners is to help us spread the word, right? You're our grassroots. We could get the word out as much as possible, but sometimes you're hitting some walls with the customers that you're trying to serve or the programs you're trying to get into. And don't hesitate to go to our dhs.gov site, find some of these practical guides and resources for engaging with industry, and we encourage you to go ahead and share them and direct them my way to me and my team. We're happy to talk to anyone that has some challenges with understanding how to navigate the industry landscape and have conversations.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm glad you mentioned culture, because not only are we measuring it on the innovation side, it's, as you all know, you probably deal with many of our different components. There are different cultures even within DHS and within the components around things like innovation, around things like industry engagement and talking to industry. And so we're really trying to kind of bring that together in a way that our customers are receiving the same type of information and guidance. Oftentimes people come from different federal agencies. That too can be a different culture that people are coming to the table with. So we're very aware of that, and we're trying to target this training to help address that. So thanks for that question. Dina, back to the topic of collaboration and partnerships. I know TSA does have a lot of programs that really depend heavily on intergovernmental partnerships with industry, including TSA's Open Architecture Initiative. Do you want to talk a little bit about that or any other thing that's going on at TSA around collaboration and partnerships?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Nina. Open architecture is, anytime I speak, I try to introduce that, so you help me to get there sooner. It is our TSA administrator's top priority now, and it does involve a whole lot of collaboration across TSA, across DHS, and with industry. And basically the concept is that he's trying to take an airport checkpoint and build it into a system of systems, so that the machinery that scans your baggage can tie that back to the person that's being scanned through a walk-through metal detector or the newer technology for that, to the baggage that's going, that you don't see, that you've checked behind, and even your ID checker, we call it a credentialing authentication technology machine, where you stick your driver's license in, so that if there is a bad actor, we can trace every point of entry for that person as they go through the checkpoint. It's a very difficult task, because currently we can't stop mission as it is now, so we're still buying new equipment, we're still buying newer versions of existing equipment, we're deploying them to different airports from different manufacturers that have different terms and conditions associated with all theirs, the warranty periods, so it's a pretty heavy lift to try to get that through. From a contracting perspective, we are trying to meet with lots of innovators from industry, because we are certainly not the subject matter experts as much as we try to be. We just can't be, and I personally think the best ideas usually come from the smaller businesses that are doing these things in a small setting, and they have good ideas and they just don't know how to get them to us. So we've been engaging a lot of small businesses to try to get them to tell us some ideas for how to do those things. And yeah, it's building the plane while we're trying to fly it is the biggest challenge, along with unpredictable budget cycles, right? We think we're going to head somewhere, we plan what the next fiscal year is going to be. We're getting funds incrementally. When they come, it might not be what we want it to be. So we have to be very flexible, agile in our approach to doing the contracting, as well as what we're trying to procure.
Really helpful. Thank you, Dina. I'm going to wrap up this question with Garth. Garth, I'm very curious about what you think the challenges and opportunities are for government and industry kind of collaboration. And any stories or successes or anything that has surprised you around the type of collaboration we've been doing and trying to do?
Yes, so to footstop what Jackie spoke to earlier, is that for industry, moving at the speed of industry is hard to kind of translate into the government procurement cycle. However, with that provides an interesting challenge for us in industry where we can engage with our government partners to get involved in the early cycles of even in the requirements development cycle to implement a solution that is less risky and more focused on meeting the mission at hand. I have seen this both in the private sector and in the federal sector through the PIL, where we thought of very innovative ways to kind of get things done and engage industry or engage the government to meet those mission needs. So.
Appreciate that, thank you. It might be a good time for me to go back to, I think, a question that was asked on the prior panel when we talk about communications and collaboration and keeping up with the speed of industry in terms of where you're at and trying to focus on what we're doing. Someone mentioned, I think, acquisition planning and forecasting in the last session. And, I think, I'm not sure if I know exactly what the question is. The person who asked it can certainly raise their hand to re-ask it. But I will say, feel free, microphone over here. I will say that we realize how important that tool is to you to hear from us, as well as the whole of government, on the planning to enable your ability to, direct your resources in a way that are going to be helpful to your efforts. We do have calls we expect that to be sort of done throughout the year, right? But there are times of the year where we ask our program offices many times through our CAE community, to go in and do kind of a wholesale update to those types of requirements. It is hard when, the budget cycle is challenging and, that's a challenge, and we navigate that and we do the best we can with that. Although I will say, as you all know, much of what you find in the acquisition planning and forecasting are things that are recurring, things that we are well aware of, that we're sort of waiting on, the funding to come through. Some things are not that way. There's new initiatives coming through all the time, but we do the best we can there. I think we realize the importance of it. We talk very often to our CAE community, especially for the major programs, so that people understand that you all are looking at this and using it to drive your efforts. So let me just pause there and see in case I didn't.
No, thank you, Nina.
Yeah.
You've highlighted the reasons. The rationale on the industry side is, for example, I've got 29 pages of APFS spread across my office right now because I'm in that cycle of end of fiscal year as you are, but I'm also getting queried by SVPs, chief operating officers, growth officers saying, why is this APFS not updated? Because a third of the opportunities that I had highlighted are more than 18 months old without an update. So keeping a project or a program alive for that period of time without sustained what we call B&P funds, awful hard in industry. You lose them. Your senior leadership will make a decision. We're not bidding this. No update, no real incentive that we can put a finger on and go to our board with or our shareholders. So the importance is APFS has to be updated. When you're in an election and then an inauguration year, there's a few changes there. The percentage of opportunities that drop off from one program or one administration to the next is quite high. There's consolidations and there's other changes. So the bottom line is, we need that updated quarterly, biannually, and as an AI project, ding, 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 near real time, right, Sean? Yep. That would help tremendously. So that was the message.
I appreciate that, and I certainly will take that back. I will say that I think part of it is incumbent upon us in the procurement community. A tool is a tool, and it's wonderful, unless it's being used the way it should be used and for the intended outcome, right? I think it's incumbent upon us in procurement to make sure that our customers, our requirements owners, that they understand the value of, doing those updates and what that means to their ability to engage, their ability to gather information in the early stages of their planning. As we all know, doing that effectively is going to result in better competition, better solutions, better RFIs, all of it. So I see Jackie is chomping at the bit here to chime in here. Go ahead, Jackie.
I am. Tom, this is timely. My team did a reverse industry day focused on this not too long ago, about 6 months ago. And, I've been telling my team, we can't just put these events on. We need tangible products that somebody can take away and remember what they learned and how to apply it, in their work. And so the 2-pagers I referenced, we created a guide in partnership with many of the industry associations to identify, the top fields that industry looks at within our APFS system and identify what certain data means to industry or signals. So if there's an NA in something, say it's the set aside, NA means, okay, this could be open for any and all. So if it's identified as a set aside for 8 days, then, certain companies are going to say, okay, that's not an opportunity I'm pursuing. But trying to enlighten the workforce that this is a tool that is of value to industry, but just as much to the government. Because we're going to have better competition, as Nina indicated. We're going to attract the right providers who are going to bring the right solutions to bear. So it's a cultural shift, but we are working on it and trying to really empower people with the knowledge and the information so that they do timely update it. They do maintain it. It's telling them you've got to take time out of your busy day and all the things that you have to do and why this is so important, because industry will benefit and you will benefit even greater from it.
And just one feedback, this audience would readily participate in your reverse industry days because looking across this audience, I know a lot of enlightened people, Ashley, that have tremendous experience and expertise. And it applies to the FSIs on the top, your mid-tier, and especially the small businesses. Making decisions on what they can bid and project their funds against it is life or death for a small business. So this is an area that we really can collaborate on and show significant improvement.
Greatly appreciate this feedback. I know Dina has a comment from an operational perspective.
Yeah, just everything that Jackie said is completely true and accurate and right, but from where the rubber hits the ground, it's a little bit harder sometimes. But I will say in my office, if you call me or anybody, my industry liaison, anybody on our staff, and you ask, hey, this has been sitting idle for a few months, what's the status? You will get that update. And all of us will take your call at any time. We may not return it right away. It may be a few days later because we're busy, but you will always get a return phone call with an explanation, if not an update. So that's always going to happen. And I will also, I've gotten some of those phone calls and people think, oh, something's going on. You've already got something planned. You're going to take this away. A lot of times I can't even tell you how we're on a path to getting something done and then someone comes up with a bright idea. Something faster, better, smarter, cheaper, and we get stuck. And we don't want to update APFS with false information. So sometimes it's sitting there while we try to figure out what the heck we want to do. So that's kind of what's going on. Most of the time, that's what's going on. But if you see something and it looks a little weird and you're interested in doing some work with us on it, just reach out. We'll get back to you and let you know what's going on for real.
Thank you, Dina. Let's move on. Oh, question right here in the green.
If you make it easier for the CO or whoever you're reaching out to and give as much information, it takes the person that you're responding 2 seconds. So if you just say the APFS number and that person is not the point of contact, then they have to go back and do the research and fill in the blank. Or if there's like me who is on 5 different ones and you say APFS number so-and-so, I don't remember exactly what it is. So if you make it easier for the person to respond immediately, you're more likely to get a response a lot quicker. Just some CIS feedback.
Great tip, thank you. Okay, I think the prior panel also talked a little bit about artificial intelligence, so we're going to talk about it too in the context of procurement. Polly, I know you've been at the table a little bit for some of these conversations in the context of procurement and how we're supporting AI efforts. Why don't we punt over to you to share a little bit with this audience?
Absolutely. Well, Admiral Barth said it well, right? North Star is collaboration, and we're doubling down on that. We recognize that increased collaboration is going to be required for us to really stay lockstep with our programs, right? With the CIO community and other partners who have AI-related requirements. And so one area we're collaborating with is really around the governance policy and tools for our workforce, right? So our acquisition policy and legislation team, led by our executive director, Sarah Todd, is currently co-chairing the government-wide CAIO, right, Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer Council's procurement working group. We're co-chairing that with NASA. And the role there is really to look across the regulatory and policy space, understand the implications for acquisition and procurement of artificial intelligence, look at our guidance, our training and resources for the workforce that will be implementing this through the contract process, and find out where there's gaps, and then help by creating resources around those gaps. And so that's kind of one place that we're leaning in. The goal of doing that government-wide is so that you as industry partners, when you see language and solicitations, right, around acquisition and procurement-related terms and conditions for our acquisition of AI, maybe it looks and feels more similar than it might otherwise. And that hopefully will help kind of level set expectations across the federal government. The other area of collaboration that we're really excited about and just thrilled about is the CIO team stood up this fantastic DHS AI Corps that is supporting DHS across the department. And we are privileged to have a member of the DHS AI Corps supporting the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. And he has been fantastic at helping us do a few things. First, he's supporting Sarah Todd's and her team's efforts on kind of advising from kind of an industry and subject matter expert level, all of the review of the guidance and language, so that we've got some expertise going in from industry's perspective and how we shape that. But he's also helping us conduct a use case inventory across the procurement line of business for opportunities to leverage artificial intelligence to help our operational procurement workforce do their jobs more readily and easily. A big piece of that is just assessing, right, appropriateness of technology, viability of the technology for these certain use cases, and then helping us prioritize those use cases, recognizing the limited funding that we have available to leverage them, and wanting to really build an enterprise-wide structure so that we're building ones for all across our department. So those are some, I think, first kind of acquisition procurement focus that are going to kind of be relevant to each of you in the room, but also kind of where we're headed internally to help our procurement workforce meet the needs that they have, given ever-increasing workloads, not really ever-increasing resources. How can we have this technology aid them so that we can be better responsive through the acquisition process at meeting mission?
Exciting stuff. I'm sure you all agree. Dina, anything going on at TSA on this front?
Sure. So from where I sit in my role, I try to make a distinction, and I see some people in the audience who may have heard me say this before, so hopefully I don't bore you. But I try to make a distinction between the AI that we buy and the AI that we use to perform our procurement mission. So on the procurement side of things, we're really just getting started with that. We're leveraging a lot of bots that help us populate forms, do contract closeout, deobligate dollars, things like that. And we're mostly doing the work in-house, things that are low code that our systems guy can figure out how to do those kind of things. But it saves us a lot of time and frees us up to be able to do a lot more critical thinking type work. I'm trying to go a little bit bigger and do some things in the Gen AI space. But there seems to be a lot of concerns about data and giving access to people for our sensitive data and how to do that. So I've hit a couple roadblocks, but I'm hoping in 25 that I might be able to do a little bit more in that space. And then the AI that I buy, we've been doing it at the airport checkpoints for a very long time. So the screening of your equipment, the screening of your baggage through the equipment, and the even some of our machines that look at your photo IDs, they go in and they use ALMI so that they can figure out AIML. I'm a contracts person, not an IT person. And they try to memorize what a bag should look like. What if you have a makeup bag? Is that really a makeup bag? If you have all the things that they see regularly, is that really what it's supposed to be? And that helps us to improve efficiency and time spent at checkpoints.
Thanks, Dina. How about you, Garth, from an industry government perspective?
So the adoption of AI, like the other panelists were saying, it is not a one-time thing. It is an iterative process. It is a process that needs to have a continuous loop for us to give feedback on its implementation. One of the things for AI is to make sure that it has transparency and it's used ethically. And so with industry and government, I think we should work together to develop a governance framework in which it outlines the clear guidelines for use of AI, particularly when focusing on fairness, accountability, and security. Additionally, I feel that collaboration is essential rather than a one-stop shop. You know, AI is not a one-and-done thing. AI is an iterative thing. It's constantly changing. It requires industry and government to partner together. Use industry as a force multiplier. We are here to help meet the mission. It is no longer a transitory event. We are here to be mission partners and mission enablers for DHS. So I think that in essence, what we need to do is, I can't stress enough the collaboration early and often for us to help move the needle for innovation and deployment in the procurement space.
Thank you, Garth. Great insights. I think that's a perfect segue into, how are we continuing to leverage innovation? I mean, AI is a great example, but we're doing a lot at DHS and have for some time in getting to some of these creative and innovative solutions using sometimes non-traditional methods and authorities. In the past, well, not in the past, every day, we are working through the federal acquisition regulations. As you all well know, you navigate them very successfully, most, if not all the time. But I would love this panel to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the space of non-traditional approaches to procurement. And again, I think this might have come up in the last panel as well. So Polly, let's start with you.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Nina, you kind of touched on this, but we recognize that as we had engagements both with industry and with our acquisition community, that there seemed to be a little bit of a lack of awareness across our buyers and our program managers around the full suite of acquisition authorities that our department has been granted, right? So in addition to the federal acquisition regulation, leveraging, I think it was brought up earlier, programs like the SBIR and SDTR program, leveraging our commercial solutions opening, pilot program authority, et cetera, that folks just didn't even understand what they were, where they would be appropriate for use, and then how to actually structure agreements, leveraging the non-FAR-based authorities. And so Nina and Paul charged a team of us to really get under the hood on that and come up with a strategy to provide better knowledge and support to the workforce. And we really envision this almost as a complementary or similar to the Procurement Innovation Lab-like support structure. We know that when you're using new authorities for the first time, hands-on, right, supportive consultation and coaching will be very beneficial to our teams. And we also understand that we're going to have to really explain the clear and appropriate authorities for use and how to get after mission capabilities using and thinking about the full suite to include the FAR and our non-FAR or our alternative authorities. So we're really excited about how this is shaping up. We've been building this internally, but also based on good engagement and feedback from industry as well. And I'm not going to steal Paul's thunder, but we really expect to roll the new entity out early in the new fiscal year. So he's going to come back to industry after we share this internally more with our community and share a little bit about what this will look and feel like. But the end and the important part here is that across the community, as we do support them better and provide the knowledge more robustly and engagement more robustly, I think we're going to see better consideration of our full suite of authorities as we get after these, especially emerging capabilities that our mission needs. So hopefully that helps shed a little light to the earlier question about how we're tackling what we understood to be kind of a problem set. And it was really a true disservice on our part to our acquisition community. So we're trying to right that.
Appreciate that, Polly. I think, a lot of times when we think about, authorities, whether FAR or non-FAR, we often focus on the procurement community primarily, obviously. But what we're learning is that, advancing the knowledge really starts with helping our customers and our program offices understand what appropriate, use cases there might be for those types of authorities. And so you don't want to wait until the requirement comes to procurement to figure that out. Because often the requirement might be written in such a way that isn't lending itself to, advancing some of these other approaches and alternatives. So I think we see a need for, expanding that knowledge base, and that's something that the team is looking at as well. So thank you for your insights there, Polly. Dina, how about you at TSA?
So,
oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, there was a gentleman with his.
Yes. Hold on one second. We're going to.
Or how are you doing that to make certain that that gets out there more globally? Because, and you're probably aware of this, is you go from one program manager or another, or from one contracting officer or specialist to another, they operate a certain way, and instead of looking at what they can do, sometimes they look at what they've done successfully before and stay there. So do you have a knowledge repository or knowledge management system that, because some of those PillCast, great information, but somebody might not be able to go into that video or know what to look in that video, is it something documented so they can find it a lot easier?
No, great question, and I think that's been one of the great successes of the Procurement Innovation Lab, because that knowledge is accessible, especially in digestible ways, to the entirety of the workforce. So that's something that this team is working through still. We're not quite ready to, kind of talk through exactly how we're going to do that, but I think we are learning and leveraging a lot of what we learned from the pill and how the entire community of DHS has been able to learn, including, other government agencies and we've partnered with industry on a lot of this, but I think the model, there's something to be learned and leveraged there. So I appreciate your comment, and certainly we see the value in that as well. Polly, or anything else on that?
No, I mean, I think we do, I think, have a clear direction that a one-stop shop is going to be really important, and a single place to come in and then learn who you need to go talk to. So yes, all good.
Okay, I know we only have 5 minutes left. I'm going to pose a question to Garth, really about how you think industry can help DHS advance our posture in embracing innovation through procurement, whether it be some of your past experiences or what you envision going forward, and what are your thoughts on that?
One way that is happening already is through the use of the pill, because they're implemented an iterative development, which avoids the pitfalls of the big bang procurement process, where it allows us to provide the government with an iterative approach so we can get that instant feedback, so it could be less risky, and it can also deliver on the overall success of the procurement. So I think that is a good way that I've seen that is. Yeah.
Iterative is what it's all about.
Agile
we have
approach.
all learned, that iterating in our processes, iterating in how we engage with all of you through the procurement process, is really yielding some great outcomes. So I want to pause because there's just a couple minutes left just to see if anyone out here has any other questions for this amazing panel. Went by so fast. Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Alan Santos. I am from Softec Government Solutions. So my question is specifically, how do you anticipate in the future using AI specifically with government procurement evaluations for proposals, risk assessments, and pricing?
Great question. Anyone want to take a stab? I'll be happy to go. Go ahead. You go.
It's not, I don't have a lot to share, but I did find a teeny bit of money in my budget this year that I've got somebody exploring how we can start doing contractor debriefings by pulling information from evaluations and then spitting out data so that it's, hopefully that'll reduce protests, reduce questions that come in. We'll see. It's a proof of concept right now, but we're just playing around with that right now.
Yes, Garth?
If I could jump in real quick. To foot stomp that some more is you have such a broad database of successful procurements. If you could use AI to do risk assessments on the procurement process, and also to make sure there's no bias, that can eliminate the risk and the potential for protests. So if you can leverage the successful awards, and it could be really a force multiplier or a way to augment your staff to really, grade proposal package, assess the risk, and make sure that it meets all the elements of the FAR. I think that would be fantastic.
Holly, anything?
Yeah, I think a lot, there's a tremendous amount of fantastic use cases. You named 3, right? There's more. But I think one of the things we are trying to be very, very attentive to, and part of why we are really thrilled with the collaboration with our CIO community that's enabled us to have a subject matter expert here helping us with our assessments is we have a lot of sensitive, right, source selection sensitive, vendor proprietary data in our data sets. And so as we think about these approaches, how are we protecting the security and integrity of the data, and also our responsibilities, right, as a warranted government contracting officer, right? There are decisions that only I can make. I'm not a warranted government contracting officer anymore, so this is just a persona, but that only I can make. And so I need to make sure that the solutions that we bring to bear reserve those decisions for me. And I can give some other examples, right? Source selection official, et cetera. And so we've got a great number of use cases that have a tremendous amount of promise, but we want to build them right and appropriately.
Yeah, I will say something that I'm working on that's in the infancy, going to be piloting it out soon, is we've collaborated to build a GPT to conduct some risk assessment for supply chain risk. And so something that is even more critical for us to be aware of and to empower contracting officers and programs with a tool that could assess what's out there and say, is there a potential supply chain risk or challenge that I need to be mindful of and try to mitigate in what I'm buying or trying to deliver, and what are some mitigation strategies, and how can I incorporate that into what we're seeking in a proposal response. That's an area that's vast and challenging that AI is going to bring us some real strength and power, and empower our contracting professionals with information that they've never had before. I also am serving right now as a source selection authority, and I'll tell you another great area is the development of the source selection documentation and some of the documents that I need to approve and sign off on. I've got a 100-page document sitting in front of me that I know this team worked tirelessly on to create from scratch. And it's all well-documented information, and the ability for AI to help generate a report based on their findings and help alleviate that, that burden on the contracting officers and others, and really help deliver and cut down some of the administrivia where someone can validate, yes, this is accurate, yes, this does make sense, but the effort and the legwork that goes in there is really a great place where I see great applicability.
Thanks, Jackie. I think what you're hearing is we see the opportunities as pretty much endless. You can get very excited about the possibilities, but as Polly mentioned, we have to be very measured, very careful about how we might apply and use this type of technology, because we want to protect your information. We want to make sure that the decision makers are in fact, taking their job as they should and making those decisions as they should. So we're excited, but we're measured. And so I just want to kind of foot stomp on that. So I think, do we have time for one more question or no? Okay, yes.
Hi, my name is Naveen from Livesoft. We are a Cyber Phase 3 awardee on the DoD side. I've been following one of your portals for Phase 0. Is that the place, it's sort of like a Cyber portal similar to DoD. Is that the place to look for next year for announcements? That is one question. And the second question is for us to brief our Cyber Phase 3 work on how we have brought innovation to DoD, where can I start in DHS? Like which office can we brief?
Yeah. So I'll take that. Yep. If you're talking about the Science and Technology Director at the Cyber Portal, that is the place to go for opportunities. And for the time being, right, they're also the first place I would go if you have a Phase 3 offering that you're looking to make sure we learn about. That said, also please feel free for the time being to go through Jackie's shop, our industry liaisons, to share the opportunity, because we could also not just share that with the team working our internal organization to support, but also across with appropriate program offices.
Thank you for the question. Thank you, panel, and thank you everyone for listening to us, and we look forward to chatting with you as the day goes on. Thank you.